Hello, everybody. Welcome to our amazing Cardi Miracle Q&A. And I'm so jazzed about having my partner back with me today, Mr. David. You guys might be hearing and talking to him and being able to communicate with him through customer service. He's doing such a great job of being there for each and every one of you. So, hey, David, how you doing?
Hi, Lisa. How are you? Hey, everybody. Hope you had
Happy
a great
after
Labor
Labor
Day.
Day.
Yep.
Now I really think, David, this is when people get serious about their immune system and their health and kids going back to school and everybody kind of hunkering down, putting the hot dogs and hamburgers away and kind of really starting to
Yeah.
get serious in the fall, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got all these holidays coming up with all this great food, so it's good to prepare the system the best you can. And then you got to get ready to go to the gym on January 1st. So, prepare for that.
The one day in the gym, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they
everybody goes on the first.
do. Do you have any questions today?
Yeah,
Answer
guys, if
those in
you
the
have
house.
questions, you can just throw them in the Q&A section for us, and we can start answering your questions for you guys.
And one of the questions I know that we get often this time of the year, Dave, is how do I prepare my immune system for the upcoming cold and flu season?
Mm.
Now we might call it something else than the cold and flu, but what are your thoughts for people to prepare for this time of the year?
Well, boosting vitamin D is going to be very important, especially for those northern states, for people who are going to lack the sunlight, kind of getting ahead of that now and boosting those vitamin D levels with a comprehensive product like Cardio Miracle. It's great. I actually spoke to a lady today, and she was explaining to me how she was having trouble raising her vitamin D levels with standalone vitamins. She was like, when I get that, she was like, I'm lacking the zinc. And then when I lack the zinc, she's like, they tell me I have too much iron in my liver. And then that means I have too much copper. I'm like, yeah, that's why Cardio Miracle is so great because it's such a
Yeah.
comprehensive, synergistic product that we're going to help raise those vitamin D levels with the
Yes.
4,000 IU of vitamin D naturally and synergistically. So you'll get benefits from it. I mean, I raised mine from a 30 to a 70, and I
That's
know we
good.
have plenty of research showing more.
Well, and I'm working on a PowerPoint program to talk about anti-aging and how vitamin D really does
Mm,
affect that. And I know Dr. Avery talks a lot about the vitamin D and how critically and important it
yeah.
is to brain health. So yeah, if it were me, I know a lot of kids are going back to school. The best thing you could do is send them with, a 180 when they're going away to school, 180 tub or container of the product so that, even if they eat wrong or maybe they're not feeling 100%, they go out and have a good time on the weekends because it's so loaded with nutrients and it's cell ready. So that means that it's ready for your cells. It doesn't have to go through intense digestion. So your cells
Mhm.
can utilize it right away. The extra vitamin C, the extra vitamin D is critically important. And also, we have some people now reporting back to me that they take it after they eat. Let's say they had a very big dinner and they feel really uncomfortable. And again, I look at, cost per cause. And so we have already built in food grade and food ready, enzymes. So some people are taking a scoop of Cardi Miracle after their meal, and they're finding that it helps to settle the stomach and move the food
Mhm.
through the system better. So that might be something. I mean, we don't get we say when you take it with protein, of course, it might be a little bit,
Yeah.
we lose some of the effects as you describe all the time. But I think, hey, if you're looking for enzymes, there's enzyme in the product. So I would definitely use it that way as well.
No, absolutely. And not to mention the diabetics who like drinking it after a meal because it really helps with those insulin levels.
Perfect.
Yeah. So,
Perfect.
if you want to drink another serving for $1.20 a day, like it's really only going to help you. So, get your two in and then
Yeah.
drink another one for dinner, and it's great instead of
Well,
drinking
hey, and
unhealthy soda.
you're right. FYI, everybody, all the Tums, and there's people that, always carry Tums in their pockets. Pay attention, look at the ingredients. They're loaded with aluminum. So if you've been out having a good time and you're loading up with all kinds of other stuff that is not healthy and good for you, and then on top of it, you throw a bunch of tablets and, of Tums that are loaded with aluminum, can you imagine what it's doing to your microbiome?
Yeah. Yeah. All those pharmaceuticals. All right, we got some questions in the chat.
Oh.
Suzette said, "Do you continue taking a multivitamin slash mineral or does this replace with Cardio Miracle?"
Well,
So
I
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. For most multivitamins, on a general stance, without looking at specifically what it is, it's probably going to contain a lot of B12. And if it does, you're better off just taking the Cardio Miracle because we contain a good, healthy level of B12 along with a full multivitamin complex. So you can really just kind of save the money in that area and just take it with our product because we put those in there to assist with the synergy of the antioxidants and the nitric oxide boosting blend.
That's right, beautifully said.
Yeah. Okay. We can move on to the next one. Rachel, has there been any testimonials on improving carotid stenosis? Stenosis. I'm probably saying that
Yeah,
wrong.
that's okay. So that's when when they become hardened, kind of like
Hmm.
instead of pliable, like you think about a garden hose, that the garden hose goes from pliable to like frozen in the winter time. That's actually what's happening. There's many factors to it. And I don't even proclaim to be a cardiologist. What I will say is that I worked enough years in the emergency room trauma and cardiac cath unit to know that when that stenosis starts, it starts way before it's ever discovered. So we know that inflammation is the number one cause of stenosis. So stenosis will continue to make it more rigid. And what happens when you have stenosis, you don't have the pliability inside the veins and arteries as well as the outside of the veins and arteries. So then they're more prone to cracking. If you think about something, when you have inflammation and causes cracks and crevices inside the veins and arteries. And then what happens is our body tries to mend that and starts to develop, the plaque formation over that. So it's not the butter, it's not those good fats that are really good for us, but it actually happens to a lot of us years and years prior to that. So we know that, smoking, excessive diet that is loaded with inflammatory agents, they can add to that stenosis. Stress, we know definitely affects stenosis. So if it were me, and I always say it this way because we always say that we don't treat, cure, or diagnose, but if it were me, and if I had that, whether it's in my family, I mean, there is right now this big conversation going on is if it's environmental or if it's familial, right? If it's your father, mother, sister, brother. But what we're finding right now is so much of it has to do with diet and environment. So I would really lay off anything that's inflammatory, really boost up here. We don't happen to carry omega oils, but find an omega oil that you feel really comfortable with that is more of a smaller fish, because the smaller the fish is, the less amount of toxicity it has. And then also, if you go into plant-based omegas, that's great as well, but really boost up your omegas. And then if it were me, I would be doing 4 to 6 scoops of the Cardio Miracle to try to get a handle on that. One thing we would do years and years ago, before we knew about angstrom size, before we knew about colloidal, before we knew about liposomal, now there's microsomal. But when we would give people the vitamin C, and we would try to chelate the let's say substances or things that were in your bloodstream that were building up in your bloodstream and causing narrowing of it. We would give them copious amounts of vitamin C per IV. And what vitamin C does internally inside the veins and arteries is it starts to soften the inside of the veins and arteries. And so therefore you don't have that plaque formation. So, but it's loaded in our product and it's food grade. So that's really important for our future.
Absolutely. What a great answer, Lisa. Yeah, it's really just diminished nutritional value in our food in today's food supply, and it does a number on our cardiovascular system. And, with 45 days, we tell people we really want them to take it for 45 to 90 days consistently to give their cells the nutrition so that they can come back healthy. And that's where we see the pliability come back in people's blood
Amen.
vessels. And that's how we see the regulation in the blood pressure, along with the production of nitric oxide and the facilitation of oxygen. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Oh my goodness, I'm
We
so excited. So the other thing I want to tell everybody, you know me, I always come up with these wacky things. But I had somebody call me and ask me, they had just opened a spa not far from me here in Minneapolis, and they asked me if they could put Cardi Miracle topically on their skin. I'm like, well, I've never tried it that way. But go ahead and give it a whirl. She had a woman came in that had extremely dry skin, and she said, well, wouldn't the nitric oxide bring more blood flow to the surface of the skin. And I said, well, it makes sense on paper, but I have no idea how it's going to work topically. And she called me back. It was almost a week later because I was afraid, I was afraid to call her, said somebody leave with the orange face, you know. But she called back and said that she mixed it with an essential oil that was not, I don't know what
Mm.
kind of essential oil, but and they used it kind of as a paste and kind of as a scrub to her face. And she said the woman was thrilled with the result. So I'm just passing on what I hear, guys. I think it's fun.
Uh, I have a random one too about vision. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was saying how he would notice he would lose his golf balls after, I know this is random, but he'd lose his golf balls
Oh,
after
that's cool.
200 yards. And then all of a sudden he started drinking Cardio Miracle and he thinks it's the blood flow or something to his eyes, but he all of a sudden can see the ball go past 200 yards now.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
so cool.
All right. We got some questions in here from Barbara. Is there any concerns doubling up on supplements when Cardio Miracle covers everything? I have severe osteoporosis and celiac diagnosed till my 50s, now 74, and I take a bone support supplement and other vitamins, etc.
I don't know about you, Dave. We've talked about this so many times. Is when I started the Cardi Miracle, I looked at my cupboard, which looked like I was a nutritional hoarder, and I took out all the ingredients that were in the Cardio Miracle product, and I literally eliminated almost all of them. The only thing that the other thing we have to remember is you're getting more bang for your buck because we're talking about a food grade nutrition that is cell ready. Like I said, your body's going to absorb it better. There's no waste. And we do take synthetic vitamins and minerals, even though, you know, sometimes you're on Facebook and you see all these ads popping up with this and that. And hey, order it today and they'll charge you 30 days from now and you can try it and all this stuff. It's really important to be a label reader. It's really important right now to pay attention to really what is inside the product. And if there's not organic on there, is it doesn't say whole food, then I would stay away from it because you're literally wasting it. We used to call bedpan bullets when we used to empty the bedpan on patients that we were giving the vitamins 2 years ago because it would go right straight through them. So again, I would do an intake on your own, the different products that you're taking, and I think you'll be very satisfied through your results.
Yeah, so she also asked in here about osteoporosis. So we're going to help support and bring blood flow to the bones and support bone health. So you could get, there's calcium in our products, so you can get benefits from supporting that. And then as far as the celiac, so with that, it's kind of the gut and the skin combo, right? So we have to balance our gut and work on our gut. And we are loaded with prebiotics to support gut health, as well as the detoxification of the gut. Now, if you do have sensitivity, you can take our product with like some bread or some fruits or vegetables to kind of assist it if you do have a sensitivity within the stomach. But we are based out of whole foods, so we're usually pretty gentle on with most people with celiac, but you can always just kind of take it easy. I have some skin issues personally that I deal with, and I notice on the days that I don't take the Cardio Miracle, those skin issues can actually inflame or become worse because I'm very sensitive to my environment. I'm very insensitive to all food that I put in my body. It can react with me in a very positive or negative way pretty quickly. So, Cardio Miracle, you want to test it out and see how it reacts with your celiac, but you can also test it out with other food products to kind of assist.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we have a question from Nancy. Is it okay for me to also eat ingredients in Cardio Miracle in my salads? Can I eat too much of those vitamins?
Well, we would always say in natural medicine that let your gut be your guide. So if you are finding like we would always, if we were going to increase vitamin C in somebody, we would say take it until you have bowel intolerance, meaning, it's difficult to
Yes.
overdose on green leafy vegetables and fruits and so on. But a lot of people will end up with diarrhea and maybe you'll have some gut issues, which not a bad thing if you're trying to cleanse, but a lot of people don't like to have that if they're eating out or what have you. It just might be kind of uncomfortable. But I would just gauge how you feel and pay attention to, your bowels.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. In general, no, it's not going to. If you want to also eat those foods, like she said, your gut's going to really guide you
Yeah.
and tell you, it's okay. Is that all right? I personally don't eat a lot of greens, but that's only because I've taken a DNA test to kind of see what my gut and how it reacts with those greens. Now, if you're willing to do something like that, you can really figure out, what your gut is actually going to tolerate food-wise.
One of the things, if you've ever heard Dr. Judy Mikovich, give a lecture. I know, David, we were just together, what was it, a month and a half, 2 months ago in
Hmm.
Florida, where she gave her lecture. And one of the things that she specifies is if you are out to eat, or if you're trying to plan your meals and you have to get so many, the food pyramid in America is upside down. It's absolutely wacky taffy. When it tells you how many grains, grains are for cows. I mean, truly. But when you look at really how many greens we're supposed to be taking, or how many vegetables and how many fruits, and you look at what's in the Cardi Miracle, she tells everybody all the time, do not stress yourself out if you're telling yourself, I have to eat 9 vegetables per day. I have to eat 5 or 6, fruits a day. There's so much in the Cardio Miracle. Do not feel badly, because the other thing we have to pay attention to, which she lectures about a lot, is the glyphosate load on so many fruits and vegetables. So if you're at Walmart or you're at some of these stores and you're saying, you know what, I got to do better on my diet, I would just increase my Cardio Miracle and I wouldn't worry about your fruits and vegetables. That's just me. But I think a lot of people are having really good luck that way.
Fruits and vegetables have become like a luxury for me. Like when I find the good, nice ones that I
Yeah.
want to eat, those are the ones I eat. I know I'm getting my phytonutrients with the Cardio Miracles,
Yeah.
so I just don't stress about it anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. all right. We have another question from Suzette. Since I'm taking a multivitamin that has vitamin D, is there a risk of vitamin D toxicity when adding Cardio Miracle? Generally, no. Most people's vitamin D levels are going to be very low to begin with. And then the bioavailability of D is pretty low also, especially in a standalone. If you take that vitamin D with our product, it could definitely, go up. But we've seen people with vitamin D levels of like 107 who take like
Yeah.
4 servings a day and they're like, oh, I feel great. Like this is perfect. I don't get sick, anything. So it's really, those numbers can be skewed a little bit depending on how you actually feel, right? So 100 is a firm set, like, oh, you're too high for 100. No, it's okay. I'm 912 on B12 and it's 12 over. It's high, but I feel great. So it's okay. I don't hold myself too firm to those strict numbers. And they're
No,
up for
that's
debate
awesome.
anyway.
I want to share somebody with, no, once we're on the vitamin D. Did you know there was an article written, and it talks about, in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, found that taking vitamin D prevented telomeres from shortening, a hallmark of aging. And they go on to talk about how vitamin D is the one vitamin that is critically important to anti-aging. So, but here has been the problem, guys, as I go off on my rabbit trail, Dave. But here's been the problem with a lot of the vitamin Ds are synthetic. So people are taking copious amounts of synthetic vitamin D. And what's happening is our body is so wise and it stores it. So we have all this stored vitamin D. Meanwhile, you're taking all this vitamins, all vitamin D, and your levels aren't going up because your body is storing it because the body doesn't know what to do with it. Well, when you take the Cardio Miracle product, what it does is what we found in one of our studies is it literally will pull the vitamin D. It unlocks the vitamin D and puts it into utilization mobility. So that's really, really exciting. That was an incidental finding that I think is fabulous.
Great. No, vitamin D is amazing and it's not talked
Yep.
about enough.
Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer has a question about Cardio Miracle with MSM, and I have actually spoken to some people who take both together and they love it. There's no issues. We're going to help with the bioavailability of MSM. It's a little bit I don't know what's the word, processed, we'll say. So it's really good to take it with a natural product like ours, so it will help with the absorption of its unnaturalness, we'll say.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Dar. How does Cardio Miracle help with congestive heart failure and lymphedema?
Well, I know as someone that travels a lot, I travel a lot less now than I used to do it. But I will say, when I took Cardi Miracle before I got it, let's say half hour before I got on the plane, and then I take it right half hour right immediately when I land, if I can pull it out of my bag, I would not get any swelling in my legs. And we had people, prior to flying, because what flying does is it does a number on your internal fluids, intracellular and extracellular. So what nitric oxide does is it helps the blood flow. What congestive heart failure does is exactly what the word says. It congests everything and you don't have the blood flow because guess what? Your heart is not pumping properly. So your lungs are filling up with fluid and then you're not moving the blood flow throughout your body. Well, we have hundreds, probably if not thousands of cases, Dave, that people have been using the product and had those kind of signs because swelling of the
Yeah.
hands and the legs are some of the early
Oh yeah.
signs, maybe shortness of breath. High blood pressure is usually brought on by high blood pressure continuously. But I think it's absolutely amazing when you see people send us pictures and show them their legs before and after taking the product, and it just helps to mobilize your blood flow. And also, it's
Mhm.
really because our kidneys are so vascular. So if you take a Lasix, and I'm not saying anything about pharmaceuticals, but I will say if you take a Lasix dehydrates you. If you take Cardio Miracle, what it does is it works within the kidneys, it works within the veins and arteries, and it helps to move the fluid that way. So we have been having such tremendous success with people in those particular situations, even though we don't treat, cure, or diagnose.
Wow, that's perfect. My grandfather actually had congestive heart failure. He's Italian or was Italian, and that's where my cholesterol came from. So
Um,
I know Cardio Miracle is something I wish was around then. Granted, he was a
right?
strong guy and he lived a very, very long time anyway, but this is something that I could potentially deal with, as I get older and I grow up. So having that
Yeah.
blood flow and is going to be great because like before I started taking Cardio Miracle, I could feel my feet get itchy sometimes with the lack of blood flow. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what is that? And
And you're young.
that's gone away too. So it's,
Awesome.
probably
And it wouldn't be,
cholesterol.
by the way, if you're asking about awesome that it went away. But the other thing that I wanted to say is if you are, you're young, like David, don't be afraid of taking more of the product, even doesn't matter what your age is. So, put it in water that you're drinking. A lot of times with congestive heart failure, CHF, they tell you to limit your intake of water because in their mind, you're blowing up your kidneys and you're putting more pressure on your body. If it were me, I would make sure every glass of water that you're taking to add the Cardio Miracle to it.
That's great. That's great. We have two questions here. They're both about ingredients, but we're going to start with Jill. She wants to know if they are food-based or synthetic. And then Diane's question, she wants to know if Cardio Miracle is 100% organic. So yes, we all of our vitamins are food-based. They all come from whole foods. There are exceptions to like except for like taurine and stuff like that. But everything else, the A through K vitamin complex is all phytonutrient blends. So it's going to be great for your MTHFR resistant people who need that methylation prior to putting it in their body. And then most of our phytonutrients that are in that blend are organic. Now, some of them that aren't listed as organic, they come from organic sources, but we can't list them as organic because of the way that we extract them. We do extract them 106-degree light, so it's not harsh to the nutrition itself. Um, but yeah, most of it is organic. Not all of it. There is stuff in there. I wanted to touch on something like alpha lipoic acid. That's very, very great. And it's what something specifically does like that. It's not uh specifically natural, right? Because it's an acid. But what it does for you is it tells your lymph nodes to communicate with your blood vessels so that you can get that drip or that seep through so that you can get proper lymphatic function from increasing the blood flow and the health of the blood. So it can help with lymphedema, and like Lisa said, that's something that's kind of comes from the congestive heart failure, but that's something we're also going to assist with helping and healing and getting out those plaques that might be clogging up the blood vessels as well as, just improving blood health and heart health, blood vessel health.
There you go.
Yeah. I saw one question in the chat. It looks like they might have answered it actually. Oh, is Cardio Miracle safe for blood thinners? Yes, we are safe for blood thinners. We're not going to mess with the blood in any negative ways. We're just going to increase volume, and that's through oxygenation, as well as nitric oxide production, as well as the relaxation of the vessels. Now, Can blood thinners be affected negatively if something happens? Yeah, but that's with blood thinners anyway. Like, if you're on blood thinners, you have to be worried if you cut yourself. We will relax and dilate the blood vessels, but it's not going to lead to anything worse than you're already getting by taking the blood thinners, if that makes sense. So, with the doctor, maybe you can get off those blood thinners because you can actually see some good lab results from taking Cardio Miracle for 90 days. We do have a lot of people that, get that result. They like to get off their blood pressure medication, and we see it happen. They work with their doctors, they see their blood pressure come down after being on the same blood pressure medication for 10 years. And, they can make that decision with their doctor to move forward.
Amen.
Well, it looks like
Yeah.
we got another question. So, how far apart should I take? This is from Diane. Should I take Cardio Miracle with methylene blue? So, I've actually done a lot of research on this. I think I might have misguided one person, by telling them to separate it, but I actually think you should take it together. And the reason that is because methylene blue, people say it has its benefits. It's synthetic, so I encourage you to move forward with that, very cautiously, and don't take it for an extended period of time like any other synthetic thing. I recommend not taking for an extended period of time. But that being said, uh, methylene blue shuts off one of the pathways that creates nitric oxide production. There are three ways to produce nitric oxide. It's not going to affect the methylene blue negatively if you produce nitric oxide, and you're not going to affect the Cardio Miracle negatively if you take the methylene blue. It doesn't matter how close or far apart it is.
Yeah.
They might actually assist and help each other. And the reason is because one's gonna open up the cell and one's gonna energize the mitochondrial within the cell, the ATP. So they could work well together. You don't have to separate them at all. I would just play with it and see what works very well for you.
No, and I agree with David. The other thing that I just want to caution everybody about methylene blue is there's some people that cannot tolerate a lot of serotonin, and
Mm,
methylene blue is a serotonin uptake. So if
mm.
you're already on SSRIs, which are antidepressants or anything of that nature, we really tell everybody to start off slowly, maybe 2 or 3 droppers of the methylene blue and then gradually build up. But sometimes what happens if you take a bit whole dropper or if you're taking, however you're taking the product, but just start off slow because we're talking about brain. It's designed to help with brain health. I'm sure that's the reason people are taking it. But it is producing wonderful results. But I would just be very careful if you're somebody that's sensitive to serotonin. Now, most people like me, I'm good with, you know, we talk about dopamine. I don't do that well with serotonin uptake. So you have to know your body and but pay attention to that. Do your own homework. Look online and find out exactly what serotonin. You can actually go into a serotonin kind of frenzy if you take too much methylene blue.
All right, great. All right, we got another question from Suzette. She thinks we might have already answered it, but she's asking about atrial lining buildup with our product and if we can help. Yeah, essentially that's just going to be another form of protein or plaque within the blood, which, getting the vascular functioning right and then detoxing the blood, which we both do very well, is going to lead to the detoxification naturally of those plaques and that buildup, as well as what we call the remodeling of the cardiovascular system or the arteries. So all those cells are going to come back healthier, more pliable. So they're going to want to remove and they will preventively or prevent that buildup from happening again is easy because the vasculature is prepared for it. And then you're also going to get liver and kidney function, which is going to help with the detoxification and the production of good proteins and plaques in your blood as well.
Right.
All right. Are there any other questions I'm missing? Maybe in the chat?
I did have somebody just text me and they said, can you please share with me how Cardio Miracle works as I'm a diabetic and does it actually help to heal the pancreas? I'll start, you can close. But I think again, we have to be very careful in the way that we answer some of these questions because we don't heal anything, especially we don't make any claim that we heal the pancreas. Our body has the ability to heal itself given the right tools. But there's
Mhm.
such a resurgence, not resurgence, but an overwhelming epidemic of diabetes and pre-diabetes in our country that I think everybody and their brother should be on Cardio Miracle to help to level off that, the blood sugar, the attack. And if you even if you have low blood sugar, by the way, low blood sugar sometimes I think it's over 70% of the time if you have low blood sugar consistently throughout your life and it starts getting worse, low blood sugar can flip at one time over into high blood sugars, into a diabetic situation because we're just talking about the instability of the pancreas itself. But yeah, your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, with high blood pressure, we're definitely going to help, or we're going to help the pancreas with blood flow, and then it's going to help the function of insulin as well as the function of the pancreas. We do see diabetics get, great results from drinking the product, like we said, close to a meal, and that's pancreas function. It's going to be gut function. And there's one other thing I was going to say, but Diane does have a question here about vasodilation. I just wanted to cover it, make sure I didn't forget about her. But yeah, we do increase vasodilation, so that's going to increase blood flow to the pancreas, to the gut, to the liver, and then it's also going to help the release of glycogen if you are low blood sugar, and it's going to help the cell itself absorb and utilize the sugars to convert them properly with high blood sugar. So it can be of assistance. Um, I have a lot of health problems. I had pancreatitis um, probably 8 years ago, and I had a lot of pain for like
That's
4 or 5 years
painful.
afterwards. Oh,
Very
I was
painful.
in the hospital. They didn't feed me for like a week, and it
Oh
was pretty
my.
bad. Um, and I continued to have the pain, continued to have the pain, and when I started Cardio Miracle, like, it was all these pains that I had had in my body for years have just gone away, the back pain, the pancreas pain, a bunch of the gut pain, not to mention just the pressure coming off my body, the anxiety, the stress, all that stuff, so increasing blood health and
Yeah.
increasing the nutritional absorption or the nutritional foundation of your body. Our bodies are pharmaceutical powerhouses, so they can create any chemical that they need to fix and heal themselves. So if we can just feed the body right, it knows potentially what to do in those areas with good blood flow.
Amen.
All right, we'll close with this one. There's a person asking about low blood pressure, and I think it's
Oh,
oh wait, there's another really long question in here. Sorry. But somebody's asking about low blood pressure. So you're somebody who takes Cardio Miracle, you should just monitor it and definitely not take it with when your blood pressure is low, right? And you can also reduce your serving size. And something I highly recommend for people with low blood pressure is increase electrolytes and increase the water intake. Those are generally the two things that are going to affect your blood pressure the most. I dealt with low blood pressure and I just increased my salt intake and I felt tremendously better. My body just utilizes it different than other people. Some people they can't have a lot of salts. Some people's brains require more salts. It's just depending on your genetics and your DNA. And that's kind of the thing about health is we have to figure it out. Sometimes we have to go in and test stuff out, try the product and see how it works for us, see how it reacts with us, and, try it consistently too. All natural products, you want to take them for 45 to 90 days, and that's all of them. That's to feed the cells in your body so that they can regenerate properly. We're not pharmaceuticals, so we're not going to instantly fix anything. I mean, I did instantly fix my SVTs, so that's not
yeah.
necessarily true. But, it's not always the case that you get an instant gratification from nitric oxide, but a lot of people do. So it's possible. I don't want to say that it's not. There's a lot of cases. All right, Jennifer. MSM is methyl sulfolate methylene. I'm not going to say that right. It's a sulfur-containing compound found in some plants and animals and is often taken as a dietary supplement for potential health benefits, particularly for joint and inflammation. You mentioned that it is synthetic, but it comes from a tree. This is similar to DMSO. I take MSM crystals apart from Cardio Miracle. Just wondering if I could continue to take that apart. This is not MMS or CDS.
I'll just say
You
that
want to
I don't
handle
feel
that one?
well, I just say I don't feel comfortable answering in a directional fashion if it's something that I'm not familiar with. I don't really have full knowledge of. And so, but I look at it this way. Whatever you're currently taking, as long as it's not a stimulant, there's a lot of products out there that are stimulants, that are weight loss. A lot of people are doing all these different things. And it adds to the stress on the kidneys, adds to the stress on the bodies. And if it's a crystal type of, I'm not quite sure what it is, but I would just say, look at Cardi Miracle as you would look at food. Dr. Judy talks about it all the time. And, play around with it. Add a little bit at a time. Look at different parts of the day. You might take them separately or together. I don't think that you would have challenges in either way.
No, and most things do come from natural products, but sometimes the way that they are synthesized or they are extracted
Correct.
from the
Yes.
product,
Yes.
they use synthetics to do that, and then it can essentially, when the chemicals break it down, your body's going to have trouble breaking it down or utilizing it properly, if that makes sense.
Correct. Yes.
All right. I think that's all the questions we have. Um,
All right. All right. All right.
yeah.
Thank
I
you
hope
again,
everybody had a
David.
good Q&A. Sorry, you can go.
That's awesome. Thanks, everybody. We're here every other week, but remember, David is available, um, through customer service. And if anybody would like to if you need to get a hold of me, David knows how to, and I'd love to help you as well. So God bless everybody. Happy trails.
Yeah,
Thanks again,
absolutely.
David.
And if anybody hasn't ordered, I'll be giving you a call when you order. So save your questions. Bye bye.
It's great.